Hi, my name is Prisha.
And my name is Shaquita, and welcome to Searching for Freedom.
So this video, we're just going to be talking about how intentional are you? How intentional have you been with your faith and what that looks like for us? And we also kind of wanted to talk about the reasoning behind the name of our channel, Searching for Freedom. We haven't really talked about this, but I feel like although we've been set free, we've had freedom in a lot of areas in our life. That's really what our friendship, the basis of our friendship and our walk has been. We've been asking God to come in and change us and mold us, and we've been searching for that freedom that we haven't experienced before, that we can't experience with anyone else.
Okay.
And I feel like the transparency that we have had together in our friendship, it's really allowed us to just have freedom in so many different areas because we haven't had to be reserved, we haven't had to hide things, because God's allowed us to be each other's blind side in other areas. So today I kind of just want to dive into that a little bit more. What does it look like to be intentional in your faith?
For me, what does it look like to be intentional in my faith? For me, just realizing who I am, who I belong to, and that I'm a daughter of a king. And so for me, I remember hearing this at church, and it said that in the midst of temptation, instead you choose Jesus. That's true freedom. And so being intentional about my faith means to decrease in my flesh and to feed my spirit and to choose Jesus. So whether that looked like me doing my devotion, if that looked like me seeking accountability, if that looked like me going in my closet and just putting my foot on the devil's neck, serving notice, just being transparent, just accepting where I am, not being content or complacent, but just allowing God to just move in the room wherever I'm at.
Okay. For me, I would say intentionality looks like doing things even when I don't want to. So in moments where I may have been up all night doing things for work or for children or even for myself, but knowing that my day doesn't look right, like my day doesn't look good, and that God deserves that time, still getting up in the morning and having that one-on-one time with him when that's the only time that I can get. It looks like saying no to my flesh, like you were saying, and being and honoring things that God desires of me, because he's placed those things for reasons that I may not understand. Intentionality looks like setting up boundaries in different friendships or relationships. It looks like allowing myself to have accountability, like you said, surrounding myself with godly wisdom and things that will lead me back to him. So it's just being aware of who I am and how I can deviate from him if I don't submit myself to.
So why or how have you become dedicated to being intentional about your faith?
I would say that I had to be broken, to be honest, because it came to a point where I had to get tired of me, tired of who I was, tired of the decisions that I was making that kept me in these cycles of dating the same type of men, of hitting the same walls. They say insanity is doing the same thing, expecting something different. So I had to get tired of being insane because I was doing the same thing over and over again, and I was expecting a different result to come in different forms. So it had to be me being tired of who I was to realize that I can't do this without God. And that if I try to do it, I'm going to fail every time. I can't fight the devil. I can quote scriptures and I can go to war, yes, but without God backing me, I am nothing. So I had to realize that because I can't do nothing and because I am nothing without him, it kept that fire of me wanting to be intentional and keep coming back to him, even when I may not want to.
Okay.
What about you? What does intentionality look like for you? What keeps you doing that?
For me, I would have to say, just continuing to walk with God. to not be the one in control. For me, being intentional in my faith has a lot to do with doors closing and being okay with that, knowing that God, the plans that God has for me is to prosper me and not to harm me, is to give me, hope in the future. And so I will have, and then being honest if I'm not okay, not being strong for everyone, but being vulnerable with God, that being vulnerable with my friends, allowing other people to speak life into me and not trying to be, because I'm a person who I like to self-improve myself. I know when I'm messing up or when I'm going down the wrong road, but being able to understand that God would still accept me. God would still love me. It won't change. It won't change how He feel about me. Me being intentional, my faith also reminds me of forgiveness. That I'm forgiven. Even if I do mess up, I can come back to God, and that's really they be really hard for me. Sometimes I would be ready to give up because I felt like, I've messed up. How can God love me? How can He still walk off? How does His plan for my life still happen even though I've slipped, I've failed? Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to be intentional about reminding myself of God's promises, reminding myself that that God's love is unconditional. And so with all of that, it tied into me being intentional more about my faith, and again, realizing who I am. And then once I realized who I was,
wasn't no turning back.
I'm home. I'm home, God.
Well, what would you say keeps you from returning back to your old ways when things get difficult and things get hard? What keeps you intentional?
What keeps me intentional? That is a really good question. And it ties me back to God's ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. Me learning how to trust God, not just with my words, but with my heart. So just my life experiences, things that I've gone through, and God bringing me out of it. And then just really grasping that concept that God's way is better. It's better than mine. I tried to do life my way. It never worked. I kept going into the same cycles. I kept doing the exact same thing, like you said, and expecting a different result. I kept dating the same guys. I kept, my heart kept getting tangled up. I kept getting disappointed. I kept trying to squeeze God out of people, So for me, what keeps me intentional is knowing that my way is no good. My way is no good. I would rather, what they say, better is one day in your course and 1,000 elsewhere. Like, I would rather be at the feet of Jesus than trying to figure it out on my own. So yeah, me staying intentional is me like, God, I need you, okay? I need you like the air that you allow me to breathe, like completely being able to depend on God for everything, for answers, for relationships, for financial decisions, just keeping God at the center. That's what keeps me intentional.
Okay. For me, I don't, it's a lot of things. Because I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult. When things get hard, it can be very difficult to remain intentional about my faith, to remain intentional about my walk. So it's a lot of different things. Like, it's when things get rough and things get hard, I have to sit and allow God to remind me, because I've realized a lot of the times when everything's happening and there's a lot of moving parts, sometimes I don't remember what God has blessed me with. I don't remember the good things in the seasons that he's brought me out of. I don't remember the 6-month time frame where it was just me and him, and I was without a job and he provided for me. I needed nothing. My children didn't even know that I was without a job. But those moments, sometimes they're like fleeting thoughts. So I have to sit in I have to sit with him, sit in his presence, and allow him to remind me of the things that he's done for me. And it kind of seems, it seems very childish, but that's how it is. Just like how we are with our children. Sometimes they need reminding, and I'm in the same way. So it keeps me focused, but in those moments, it doesn't always happen like that. Because when I'm upset about something or something's happened, of course, because I'm controlling, I try to figure it out myself. I try to figure out how this is gonna happen. God has to show me. He'll sit there and just let me go in circles, try to figure it out myself until I realize, baby girl, you can't do nothing. You are nothing without me. Just like he's always told, well, he hasn't told me that I'm not nothing, but he's always had to remind me that I need him. He wakes me up in the morning. He breathed air into me. So I need him just to be able to breathe. I need him to be able to do anything, the smallest of things. So he has to allow me to hit that wall a couple times sometimes. He has to allow me to realize, okay, you're not doing this the way that it needs to be done. Or you're doing this the way you want to do it, but I have something so much better for you. So when things get difficult, I have to get tired of myself. And all the time, it's not me doing trial and error. There are definitely moments where it's like, okay, this just isn't right, and I just need to go sit at the feet of Jesus. But I have to be practical, because there are times where I don't go straight to my prayer closet. There are times where I don't immediately put on my worship music. There are times where I am just sitting in my room and sulking about it, pouting basically. And in those moments, what keeps me intentional, to be honest, is my children.
Okay.
Because it's reminded me of the fact that my walk isn't just for me. And yes, some of our viewers, you may not have children, so that might not be something that encourages you. But you have your own relationship with God. So whatever you and him talk about when you're in your quiet place, whatever that moment is, that when he speaks that thing to you and you smile, because that's the thing that just you and him only get and understand, use that to bring you back. Use that to keep you intentional, because I know that my walk isn't just for me. I know that they're watching. I know that they're listening. I know that they hear. So although my desire is to please God, when I'm in my flesh, and sometimes I'm not thinking, or I'm not on holy ground, because those moments happen.
Right. Thinking
about my children, thinking about what my life would look like if I didn't submit to God. That keeps me intentional.
That's really good. Submission is definitely not that a word. That's a word. And it'll preach on its own. Because I don't feel like I feel like we're taught to be independent. We're taught to have it all together. We're taught to,
independent woman.
We're taught to keep that mask on and show everybody that you're okay. So when it comes to being submissive and you need that in order to continue to be intentional about your faith, because you have to be at a place where you can submit to God, whether he's telling you something that you want to hear or not. Because sometimes he will say,
those things you don't want to hear. But God, I'm not ready for that. Sis, get your shoes on, you go.
Or be still and know that I'm God.
Yeah. Oh, that, I feel like that is the most difficult. Okay, so we've been talking about just our kids and being a mother and our faith and being intentional. So do you think that you have to be more cautious when it comes to your intentionality, because it's not just you, because you're a mom, or does that not matter? Is it the same for someone who has kids or someone who doesn't have kids?
I can say it's important, because we are mothers, because our children are watching. So it's definitely important that we don't lose sight of our faith, that we continue to keep on this walk, because For me, I'm all about breaking generational curses. So it's not just about I don't just think about my son, but I also think about the generation that's coming behind me. I think about not even just my generation, but the nations that that I'm going to touch, that God has called me to, the people that he's called me to speak about. I'm a person who, I'm not self-centered at all. And my brother, he was talking to me about it today. He was like, you always, when something go wrong, you always check yourself first. You don't point the blame at other people. So for me, my walk, my faith, my intentionality, it's for everything that I do, everything that I embed my life into, whether it's my job, whether it's my future, whether it's my relationship with God, my intentionality, my faith. It's just who I am. You know, it just, I feel like with God in me, you know, he shines through me, and therefore I'm in whatever I do. I want to make it's important that I'm pleasing God in whatever I do. And I'm grateful that because of what God is doing in me, it allows me to, it gives my son a representation of who God is. Like what God is doing in me, everything else in my life benefits because of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, I definitely feel like, yes, intentionality, it's for God. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like I am a little more cautious with my intentionality, with my faith, because I am a mom. And I only feel like that because, yes, my walk is for Jesus, but there are two little people that are also looking at my walk. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be one person in church and then come home and my children say that I'm a completely different person. Mm-hmm. So although their walk will be their own, and that's something that they will have to bring up with God when it comes to that point, but I want to be an example of the fruit of the Spirit for them. Mm-hmm. I want to be that example, just like God is calling me to be a blessing to others. I also want to do that for my children as well. So when I am intentional, my first goal is God, but I also make sure that I'm thinking about my children in the back of my mind as well, because the fact of the matter is they're who I'm raising. Mm-hmm. They're someone who God has entrusted me with to raise up in the way that they should go. So I am a little more cautious because of that. And it makes me want to make sure that I am also showing them what that looks like with transparency as well. Because like I was telling you earlier, I don't always get it right. I can't always do everything perfectly. And sometimes I may not have faith for a situation. I may not want to be intentional and go in my prayer closet. There may be a week where I don't sit down with him, God, the way that I want to. But allowing my children to be able to see that you can fall. It's okay. God has grace for a reason. Mm-hmm. But I definitely am a little bit more cautious because I do have kids. So making sure that I am remaining intentional, not just for them, of course, but I can't lie and say that there isn't something that crosses my mind when I'm wanting to be intentional for God.
It makes sense. Absolutely. I can definitely agree. I can definitely say I know that the decisions that I used to make, you know, I do think about Mark as far as dating, you know. The first question I used to didn't ask, now ask now, you know, can this person leave my home? So I guess you can. So I can see your point in that area as well. Definitely being cautious, making sure that the decisions that you make will please God, and that because what we do affects them. Yeah. So absolutely.
Yeah. All right, you guys, we just want to thank you so much for watching the video. And if you have any thoughts about just your intentionality, what your intentionality and your faith has looked like, please comment and share below so that we can experience or hear about some of your experiences.
Absolutely. Don't forget to hit that like button. Again, if you have made it this far, that means you rocking with us, okay? So please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button, tell a friend to tell a friend, share this video with who you want to share it with, and Come on, join us. Come on, y'all know y'all like it.
We'll see you in the
We'll
next
see you
video.
later.
Okay, so we've been talking.